Hello, Shrunkle Spurt here, and today we're banging on yet again about the Pixel 9 Pro, which, as I say these very words, will cost you just 679 quid here in Blighty, which is cheaper than pretty much any other 2025 flagship smartphone, apart from the good old Poco F7 Ultra, of course. And of course that's because Google will be dropping its latest Pixel 10 series in just over a week. But this past year, the Pixel 9 Pro hasn't just got cheaper, it's also got better thanks to Google's Pixel drops. You've also now got a fresh bit of Android 16 action stuffed on there. Now the Pixel 9 Pro was one of my favourite smartphones of last year, so should you grab this wee stunner while it's such a bargain, or maybe hold off a bit, see what that Pixel 10 Pro has to offer? Well, here's my full in-depth 1 year review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding the old notifications bell. Cheers! Now, one thing I still very much have mixed feelings about here on the Pixel 9 Pro is the design, which is still a bit too iPhone-y with its flat-edged, chunky finish. Occasionally I do like to dive into the old nostalgia drawer and lovingly cradle a classic back-in-the-day curvy Pixel and release a bittersweet sigh like a parent getting all dewy-eyed over baby photos. Golden days that have slipped through our fingers like semolina. Still, the Pixel 9 Pro is the first compact Pixel Pro phone packing all of those premium specs, as well as Google's beefiest camera tech into a hand-pleasing 6.3 inches. And that alone is enough for me to forgive the iPhone styling, maybe, just about. The Pixel 9 Pro is an absolute breeze to use one-handed thanks to that more compact frame, and also that edge-to-edge camera bump which doubles as a convenient finger shelf. So you just rest the old pinky on there while you're doing your whatever. And though like the iPhone, the Pixel does feel a wee bit wide when you clutch it. And as for the actual materials, well, you've got Gorilla Glass Victus 2 front and back here on the Pixel 9 Pro. And I gotta say, not having any kind of screen protector slapped on here did have me slightly nervous, because while Victus 2 is fantastically and impressively shatter resistant, it can occasionally get scratched to buggery. But thankfully, zero problems here on the Pixel 9 Pro. Despite being chucked into bags and pockets with other phones and loose change and bottle openers and bottles, etc., that screen and the arse end are still in pretty much perfect nick. The only visible damage is a couple of tiny wee bits of chipped paint around the camera bump here, where the Pixel 9 Pro had a bit of bump and grind action with a pebbly beach. However, the Pixel 9 Pro still can get rather mucky. Like, those shiny edges are pretty much coated in finger spunk from the second you pick this thing up, while that back end doesn't do much at all to repel grease and grime despite the matte finish. I do feel like I'm constantly having to give this thing the old sleeve rub just to prevent it from looking too grim. And of course the Pixel 9 Pro is also IP68 rated, as you'd expect from a flagship smartphone, so it can get incredibly moist, fully submerged in water, no worries whatsoever. The screen, not quite as responsive as some rivals like the OnePluses when it does get damp, but it's not a total disaster area either. And that in-display fingerprint sensor still works a treat, even when your digits are proper wet or filthy, ably assisted by a decent bit of face unlock as well. Now on the software side, Android 16 is here with the promise of 5 more OS updates before the Pixel 9 Pro is out of support. Kind of crazy to think this thing launched with Android 14 on it just 1 year ago. Although you would be forgiven for not actually realizing that it's been updated, because Android 16 looks very familiar indeed. Just a few subtle little tweaks to the UI. But of course you can't beat that stock Android vibe, nice and clean and smooth and slick, and Google has shoved in a few new features, just a handful, that are actually genuinely useful. So for instance, Android 16 sports even more battery features and settings, including lots of health check tools, which is pretty handy if you're hoping your Pixel 9 Pro will last you several years. And as you would expect, top-notch security and privacy features as well. The likes of passkeys just work beautifully. Got the likes of the advanced protection tools, which will help keep you safe no matter what you get up to on this thing. There's also the VIP contacts tool for the people that you care about the most. So you can, for instance, instantly share your location with them or request their location. You can even add little memos about them so you can, remember all the times that they wronged you. So, you can plot your revenge in an efficient manner. And Gemini is also even better 1 year on, with the ability to start a creepily natural conversation about something you just found online, any random thoughts that have popped into your head, or even a photo that you've just taken. Hey Gemini, should I be worried about this lamp that I've just found?
No, Chris, that's just your penis.
My what? The ability to share your screen with Gemini has come in really handy a few times now. For example, I spied a bunch of weeds growing in our little garden pond a couple of days ago, so I fished some out, took a photo, and Gemini reassured me that it wasn't about to murder or goldfish, it was actually helping to oxygenate the water. That's probably a good idea to keep it under control. But of course, this was all done using Gemini Live, which is an advanced feature you will have to pay that subscription charge for. You do get a year free, but of course, if you bought the Pixel 9 Pro a year ago, then that's about to run out and you're going to have to stump up some cash. But of course, comparing Google's AI features with the likes of Apple's AI features, for instance, is kind of like comparing Stephen Hawking with a 4-year-old that just sharted. And likewise, Pixel Screenshots is still a fantastically useful feature for saving any important info, which you can then get Gemini to regurgitate with just a quick request. But of course, Android 16 isn't perfect. For instance, the Google News notifications have been annoying the living piss out of me these last couple of weeks. So for instance, recently they've been popping up the usual clickbaity bullshit headlines about Sunderland FC being on the verge of signing a world-class player, without actually saying which world-class player it is. And it will of course appear to be a brand new story and everything, but then when you give in and actually poke that notification, you'll find out it's a bunch of toss that's several days old and no longer relevant. So yes, usually complete arse drippings, but thankfully Google still allows you to silence any notifications that you don't want just by long pressing on them. And the customization is still slightly limited on stock Android compared with other Android launchers like Oxygen OS and Color OS. But if that bugs you, you can always slap on a fresh new launcher, and guess what? Your favourite follically challenged drunken uncle has already rounded up his favourite launchers of 2025 in a splendid little bit of online entertainment right here on YouTube. Oh, and as for the built-in temperature sensor here on the back end of the Pixel 9 Pro, well, I've had about as much use for that this past year as I have a comb. To be honest with you, I completely bloody forgot it even existed. Now, the Pixel 9 Pro's 6.3-inch Super Actua OLED display is still an absolute cracker, if not quite as bright as some rivals. Nothing new to add to the original review, really. I've not struggled to see it in summertime, even when wearing shades, although, as I say, not quite as bright as some of the competition. It's still sharp, poppy, and smooth as an Essex lad's taint. Those stereo speakers are also pretty bloody good for a compact device, and I've had absolutely no woes whatsoever from the Bluetooth streaming. And of course, the Pixel 9 Pro first launched back at the arse end of 2024 when we were danglies deep in winter time, and the UK closely resembled Mordor on a particularly rough day. So I was particularly intrigued to see how the Tensor G4 that powers the Pixel 9 Pro would handle life once we got into summertime and some proper heat. And the good news is the Pixel 9 Pro and that Tensor G4 do handle life rather well in summer. Of course, if you are going to be gaming on the likes of Wuthering Waves with those graphics settings boosted all the way up to the maximum possible levels, well, yes, the Pixel 9 Pro does start to get a wee bit warm, shall we say. The top end of the phone in particular does get a wee bit toasty, and you will notice some obvious frame rate drops in the likes of Wuthering Waves when that action gets rather heated too. But if you do leave this game on the regular default graphics settings, then it's generally fine. That action is a lot smoother, even if you're gaming for a good hour or two non-stop. Now, I've got to say, if you are a hardcore gamer, I would look to other flagships instead, especially those with a proper, decent, dedicated gaming mode rather than the bare bones efforts you get here on the Pixel 9 Pro. And thankfully the smartphone has generally been well behaved besides that. Even when I've been using it out and about in direct sunlight in like 28-degree heat, it hasn't struggled or sweated. Even when I've been shooting lots and lots of video, it's thankfully been fine, I guess because the Tensor G4 is apparently more efficient when it comes to all the camera action. Although I have received the following message a couple of times this summer when using the camera: device is too hot, video quality may be reduced. Well, thankfully that has been pretty rare. Now, as for the battery life, well, you've got a 4,700 mAh capacity cell stuffed inside of the iPhone-y style frame. And that is of course quite dinky compared with a lot of other flagships in 2025, but the good news is the battery life here on the Pixel 9 Pro has been perfectly dependable. Most days I will face plant my pillow at night with at least 20 to 25% charge remaining, and even on the longest, most arduous days with this thing, a good 7 hours of screen on time, including roughly an hour of video chatting online and an hour of gaming action, I'll still just about make it to bed before the Pixel 9 Pro finally conks out. And if you are just full on escaping from reality with a bit of Wuthering Waves, well, that battery life will drain about 35% of every hour of action, so a full charge won't quite last you 3 full hours. So yeah, certainly if you are looking for a smartphone that can last you a full weekend on a single charge, I'd say look to the likes of the OnePlus 13 or something with a massive capacity battery instead, but otherwise this will do the job nicely. Of course, the bad news is it's slow at recharging, as always. 27 watt wired charging, so you'll have to bung a cable in it for over an hour to get a full charge from a fully drained battery. And you do have a bit of wireless charging, but again, slow as balls. So let us bring this lovely wee Pixel 9 Pro 1 year review to a close with a good old squint at that camera tech. And what you have here is a 50 meg Octa PD sensor backed by a 48 meg ultra wide angle shooter with autofocus, and a 48 meg quad PD telephoto shooter with 5 times optical zoom. And the Pixels have one of my favourite smartphone camera apps of all time. It's so simple, basically point and shoot. You can quickly and easily swap between the photo and the video modes down here, and then if you do want to flip to a specific mode like portrait or whatever, it's just a case of flipping left and right as usual. And it's super friendly for one-handed use, a quick flick and you've got all your toggles and your Pro controls right there. And the Pixel 9 Pro is still one of my favourite smartphones in 2025 for shooting everyday shenanigans, even 1 full year on. It's ideal if you just want to point and shoot with zero brain activity required. Doesn't matter if you break rules like snapping into the sun, this blower can easily cope with it. High contrast isn't a problem, and likewise you'll still get natural tones and quite sharp detail when the lighting is on the dim side. And the Pixel 9 Pro may have stiff competition from the likes of the OnePlus 13 when it comes to action shots, but it's still one of the best out there for snapping your kids, pets, and other things what never keeps still, and that's also true when you swap lenses. With that telephoto sensor, you can zoom in up to 30 times in total, helped along by some AI sharpening, and things are reasonably crisp up to around the 20 times level, but beyond that your pics will start to get rather fuzzy. And this zoom lens is a cracker for your portrait snaps, though the Pixel 9 Pro can occasionally get a bit confused by any stuff what your subject might be clutching. And the telephoto shooter also does a surprisingly good job when the lighting is complete bollocks, even with a moving subject. And last up, that ultra-wide lens is a good one for your macro shots and more dramatic snaps, and this also copes admirably with strong contrast, although there is a fair bit of distortion and ambient shots are often noisier and lacking in detail. But of course, yes, if you are after proper full-on manual controls, well, the Pixel 9 Pro will not suit you, because this is basically the extent of it. You can bump up the resolution to 50 meg, you can shoot in RAW format for editing on the fly. That's pretty much it. And frankly, Google's AI editing smarts are absolutely gob-stopping. Gob-stopping? Gob-smacking? Gob-something. They do something to your gob and it's quite impressive. It's super easy to use and just terrifyingly effective at times, just how deftly they can erase things from existence, or merge 2 photos together, all kinds of stuff. As for the video action, where you can capture footage at up to 4K resolution on the actual device itself. Otherwise, you can have it boosted up to 8K as long as you don't mind that footage going online and being upscaled by Google, again using AI type shenanigans. And thankfully my home movies always look pretty good when I watch them back on my laptop. You get plenty of crispy detail just at the Ultra HD level. I rarely bother with the 8K upscaling. And yeah, you don't have the smooth zoom feature of Samsung's flagships, but you can at least swap between the different lenses while shooting, no bother. That stabilization is respectable enough, and the audio capture has been absolutely fine, although you can sort out any minor feedback issues post-recording, as we'll see in a bit. And Google's video boost feature is now fully realized 1 year on. The Pixel 9 Pro still needs to upload your footage to the cloud in order to clean it up, and that rendering time does often stretch into hours depending on the size of your clip, etc. But still, it is well worth doing it for any low light video that you shoot. as this does look significantly cleaner post-processing. And also any zoomed in footage shot using the telephoto sensor will also appear slightly sharper, although this has clearly been achieved through artificial means. It doesn't quite look natural. And the audio eraser tool here on the Pixel 9 Pro is certainly more impressive than on its Samsung flagship rivals. So you've got a video with lots of background noise, annoying kids screeching and wailing, etc. No worries, just go to Edit. And you can get this all cleaned up using the audio eraser tool, so we can dial down the likes of the crowd because we don't want any of that. Any wind noise as well, which crops up, that can be absolutely obliterated. And then when we play back, and you've also got the likes of auto trim as well, which is variable at best. Sometimes doesn't quite capture the best moments in the video. And of course, last up, you got that 42 meg selfie shooter up front on the Pixel 9 Pro if you want to shoot stills of your facial region. And you can also capture video at up to 4K resolution. With this, the stabilization is really good. Again, I think a fair bit of that is done in post-processing. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a tasty wee nutshell is what I reckon of Google's Pixel 9 Pro a full year on. And at this more reduced price with a bit of Android 16 on there, it's more lovable than ever. And certainly still one of my picks out there, even compared with all of the more recent, fresher 2025 flagships. Of course, if you are a hardcore gamer or you want the best possible battery life around, well, I'd say maybe look at something like the OnePlus 13 instead. That's Snapdragon 8 Elite Smarts, and of course the fripping massive battery. But if what you crave is a more compact device with that gorgeous stock Android experience, long software support, and a beautiful point and shoot camera, well, job friggin' done. The only other question is, should you bag a Pixel 9 Pro now while it's on the cheap, or wait that wee bit longer for the Pixel 10 series? Well, of course, the Pixel 10 Pro will upgrade to the Tensor G5, which is no longer Samsung produced. It'll be really interesting to see how that one holds up under a bit of heat. You're going to get a bit of Qi 2 battery charging support, so you'll get some fresh Pixel charging stands, but besides that, probably not too many differences. So I'd say certainly if money is a thing, you want to save yourself a bit of cash, well, just grab this bad boy. And I'll be bringing you a full bit of funnily hands-on action with the Pixel 10 series over in New York when that launches August the 20th. In the meantime, that's enough of me banging on. Please do let us know your own thoughts on the Pixel 9 Pro down below, especially if you've been using it these past few months. Do you think it's as ruddy wonderful as all that? For more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves an absolutely stunning rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you!